So we will just begin by doing a quick settling of the mind. We can come here to the present moment, whether we're in the room together or whether we're on Zoom together, just because it's the end of a busy, probably busy Thursday. Just settle your bodies into whatever your comfortable posture is right now. It's okay if it's not sitting on the ground. It's okay if you want to lay down, just anything right now, just so we can come to the present moment into this space together for the next hour. So you can take a few deep breaths, filling your abdomen, your lungs, your chest. Feel your shoulders lift up and breathe out slowly. Watch the breath going in and out as you continue breathing. Try to make sure your attention is gently resting on your breath as you breathe, allowing yourself to settle into the present moment. To let go of all the happenings of the day, the rest of your evening, just to come here with your breath right now. You realize you've wandered away from your breath, your mind has gone elsewhere. Just gently release the thought and come back to your breath, which never left you. Let's continue this breath awareness for another couple of minutes. And now that we have hopefully brought our mind a little bit more to the present moment, we've let go of the recent past and the immediate future, and we're here now together. We want to start by making a short motivation before we start our practice today. We've taken this 1 hour of time out of our very busy lives to come here and to practice together and learn together. And we're doing that in order to bring our minds a little bit of calm, maybe to bring a little bit of happiness in our lives, to become aware of ourselves. But we also want to remember that all of these things we also do for the benefit of all beings, not just ourselves, because we are all interdependent on one another. And so when we bring ourselves a little bit of happiness, it also affects those around us. And that's very important to hold in our motivation as well. We take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha until enlightenment. So thank you everybody for joining us today. Like that, for taking a little bit of time out of our days. 1 hour can feel like a lot. uh, but in the grand scheme of things, it's 1 hour, it's these special 1 hours that make a lot of difference in our lives. So thank you all for joining. So the practice we just did, which I wouldn't call it a practice, and I just want to confirm again that the people on Zoom can hear me all fine. Some thumbs up or in the chat. Okay, so the practice we did, and you guys missed it, but we did a short practice of just watching our breath in and out. And that practice is what is called shamatha. Although we didn't do it formally, that was just to bring us to the present moment and to bring us into this room and get us settled. But that practice of breath awareness is one of the stages, the parts of shamatha. And so that is the kind of meditation we'll be talking about today. Shamatha, how many of you have studied about shamatha or have heard the term? Okay, one on Zoom. Okay. So, all right, a little bit hollow sound on Zoom. So I'm just going to make a quick change here and switch to my headphones. See if that makes it a little bit better. Okay, can people hear me okay on Zoom now? Is that a little bit better? Okay, so shamatha is a practice in Buddhist meditation, which is known as the foundational, the first stage of meditation. So there are many different forms of meditation. Maybe you guys have done meditation on emotions or on mindfulness or related to anger or compassion or the four measurables, loving kindness. But before all of that, shamatha is essentially the foundation. What it means, the term shamatha, it means calm abiding, or single pointedness. So single pointedness meaning you are focused on one object. And in that, the one that we just did was focusing on the breath, and there are other forms that we'll talk about. But that is what shamatha means, is single pointedness. And what happens when we are focused on one thing? If anybody can answer, like when you are really focused on one thing, you're reading a book or you have a task or you're talking to somebody, what happens in your mind? Any thoughts, observations?
The mind is not wavering at you, so more concentrated.
Yeah. Your mind is not going to other places. You're there. You're with whatever you are doing. And so essentially, this is like, it's like basically we are tricking our minds to focus on one thing. By focusing on our breaths, we are essentially second-handedly removing the distractions from our mind. We're letting all the distractions to fall away instead of sitting here and pushing out our thoughts, which can cause a lot of what's called lung in our heads, a lot of energy or a lot of pressure and tension. Instead of trying to force ourselves to relax or force ourselves to focus on our breath in meditation, or to focus on whatever we are focusing on in our meditation, we're focusing on just one object, which is our breath, which is always there. And we are allowing that focus on the breath to then, on its own, to release all the other distractions in our minds. And so, yes, to answer the question, Dr. Alan Wallace is part of the program. All of what I am going to be talking about mostly is going to be pulling from him, and we'll do a meditation from him as well. So I just wanted to give a brief introduction of what shamatha is. And the reason that I wanted to, that the session today, I wanted to focus on Alan Wallace is because he has written many books on shamatha. He has a lot of wisdom on the practice of shamatha, and that is also how I studied shamatha, sort of secondhand. My teacher was a student of Alan Wallace, and so that is also what I've practiced. And so Alan Wallace, for those who haven't heard the name, is a long-time Buddhist practitioner. He grew up in America and studied in Germany. And at the age of 21, he left his studies in Germany, I think a year before he finished. And he was studying ecology and some other things, history. But his interest sort of moved over the course of his studies to Buddhism and the Dharma. And so he left his studies at 21. He came to Dharamshala. He ordained at the age of 23, and he studied for about 9 or 10 years in Dharamshala. He ordained as a novice monk at 23, and then at 25 he ordained under the Dalai Lama. He took refuge. And so he's been a long-time practitioner of the Dharma, and since then, since his studies in Dharamshala, he has gone all over the world, and especially in America. He's done a lot of work in bringing Buddhist psychology and sort of observing and exploring the intersection between Buddhist psychology and Western psychology, Buddhist philosophy and Western philosophy, Buddhist meditation, and other forms of meditation, and really opening a whole new field in that sense. He's done a lot of work studying the minds of meditators and practitioners as they're meditating, to see how it's affecting our minds and our neurons. And he opened the Institute of Santa Barbara of Consciousness Studies, where he's doing a lot more research on the mind. He's written a really interesting book, which I'm actually still reading. And if anybody's interested in this field, please feel free to borrow this book, because it's a little hard to find. But it's called Hidden Dimensions, which is about how modern physics and Buddhism overlap, which is very interesting because those are two fields that are we consider as very, very far apart, like physics and science and religion or spirituality or Buddhism or meditation. But there's actually so much overlap, and Alan Watts has been really fundamental in in furthering that field and exploring and researching that. So it is thanks to him that we'll hold our session today. So I want to just say a few more words on shamatha, and I'll use an excerpt from Alan Wallace. It's a book called Attention Revolution, which is about the 9 stages of shamatha meditation. So even if, all 9 stages of shamatha meditation, that's essentially attaining a very, very high state of concentration and meditation. But even just for one who is not, in retreat or who is intending to go all the way to the 9th stage, it's a very interesting book on just learning how to meditate, the practices to meditate. It has a lot of guided meditations and interspersed with other meditations of loving kindness, Tonglen, compassion. And so it's this book is very, very beneficial, has a lot of resources in it. So today we'll, shamatha, I mentioned the 9 stages of shamatha. And let's see. So I didn't have a chance before I came down here this session. I wanted to find if we have the shamatha painting in here somewhere. It might be over there. But in any case, let me see if I can, I'll pull it up here and I'll share it for Zoom as well. Some of you may have heard of or seen of the well-known shamatha painting, which is in many Buddhist centers. So let's see. Okay, so I've shared it for Zoomers, and for all of you, if you can see, and you can come a little closer if you want. This is essentially a painting depicting the different stages, the 9 stages of shamatha meditation. So if you see, there's a path going up like this, and each one has an elephant, a monk, and a monkey for the beginning. And so this is one stage, this is another stage, this is another stage, this is another stage. I'm sorry if you can't see it very well, but at least the people on Zoom, I hope, can see it all okay. Basically, it starts from the bottom, and the bottom stage, I'll just describe it for you all, is an elephant running ahead of a monk, and there's a monkey also ahead, and is ahead of the elephant. And essentially what those 3 symbols depict is the monkey at the front depicts all these distractions, all these things that go on in our lives, these external factors that are going on in our lives, whether it's like a train running late, or somebody at work, or coffee spilled, or anything that's going on outside, or even a happy moment. Those are all the external activities that is represented by the monkey. The elephant right behind the monkey, and again we're looking right at the bottom, the elephant behind the monkey is chasing after it. And the elephant is our mind chasing after all the things going on in our external worlds and getting caught up in them. Behind the elephant is a monk who is trying to chase after the elephant, but of course failing, because our mind is so active, and constantly we have a million thoughts running in our heads. And so the monk is trying to chase after the elephant, basically. And so you can see that over the course of the whole path, as you move upwards to the path, slowly by the 2nd stage, the monk is trying to catch the elephant. By the 3rd stage, it's caught the elephant with its lasso. So that means this is in the 3rd stage. As you go deeper and deeper into your meditation practice and concentration, you can reach a stage where you can focus on the object of your meditation, whether it's your breath, or we'll discuss the other forms of shamatha meditation. And so you might have experienced in the meditation, in the very short meditation we just did, your mind was probably, you could maybe come to your breath for a second and then your mind was going somewhere else, and then you could come back for a second and then it's going somewhere else. So essentially, we've now moved to a stage where you can focus on the mind for maybe a few seconds, maybe a minute, without distractions, without it wandering away from your control. So you're basically, you have your mind more in control. You keep going along the stages, and slowly the black elephant you'll see is turning white. The black elephant is symbolizing a sort of dullness and a lack of awareness in our minds, and the white elephant is symbolizing clarity. So even though the elephant is still there, of course we will always have thoughts. The point of meditation is not to just get rid of all our thoughts. We need our thoughts, we have emotions, we have life around us, but the point is to transform it into a beautiful white elephant, which means we are aware of it. We are aware of the thoughts. We are controlling the thoughts now. We are guiding the elephant instead of the elephant carrying us away. So anyway, it's a really beautiful painting, which I'll send in the WhatsApp groups later, so you all can take a look at it. It's a very, very powerful painting, just to see like the potential of our minds, really. Like, okay, we can, have a little bit more control of our minds, and we don't have to be totally at the whim of all our thoughts and emotions. So yeah, it's a really lovely painting to look at. And so another aspect of shamatha also, it's of course, so we can all sort of understand the benefits. I mean, since we're all sitting here, there are obviously reasons we're here. Either maybe we want to just bring a little bit of calm in our minds, or we want to improve our focus in our daily lives, or we want to observe our emotions maybe a little bit more, or just to bring a little bit more happiness in our lives, or cultivate compassion, whatever it is that draws you here. That's what the single pointedness of shamatha can help to cultivate. And but the main reason that shamatha is known as like the foundational form of meditation is because it essentially allows you to then, once you have the stability, it cultivates a stability in your mind, which then allows you to dive into, say, a meditation on anger, or a meditation on compassion, a meditation on just observing your emotions, a meditation on Tonglen, a meditation on bodhicitta. It can allow you to go deeper into these meditations, because now you have more control over your mind. So right now, maybe a lot of you have already done meditations like that, or just maybe a lot of you have done meditations like that, either through an app or any form where you are going through a guided meditation and observing something within you, or reflecting on an event that happened or something like that. But you can imagine, if you've already gone through practice shamatha, which is focusing your mind, learning how to bring your mind to the present, how to control your mind, then you can go even deeper into that practice. You can go even deeper into compassion, into thinking about the love of your parents, into thinking about the kindness of other beings, into cultivating patience, into cultivating gratitude or generosity within us. And you can go really, really deep. And so just to read a quote by Alan Wallace about that: shamatha's main purpose is to make the mind perfectly serviceable and totally efficient in terms of the cultivation of virtue. And I'll just read another quote as well, relate to why shamatha practice is so important. And this is from the same book, Attention Revolution. Like a wild elephant, the untamed mind can inflict enormous damage on ourselves and those around us. In addition to oscillating between an attention deficit when we're passive and hyperactivity when we're active, the normal, untrained mind compulsively disgorges a toxic stream of wandering thoughts and then latches onto them obsessively, carried away by one story after another. Attention deficit and hyperactivity disorders and attention deficit slash hyperactivity disorders and obsessive slash compulsive disorders are not confined to those who are diagnosed as mentally ill. The normal mind is prone to such imbalances, and that's why normal people experience so much mental distress. Such disturbances are symptoms of an unbalanced mind. These two functional tendencies seem to be intrinsic to the mind. Hyperactivity is characterized by excitation, agitation, distraction, while attention deficit is characterized by laxity, dullness, lethargy. When our minds are subject to these two imbalances, we have little control over what happens in our minds. We may believe in free will, but we can hardly be called free if we can't direct our own attention. No philosopher or cognitive scientist needs to inform us that our behavior isn't always guided by free will. It becomes obvious as soon as we try to hold our attention on any chosen object. So, thus, our practice of mindfulness of breathing consists of prolonging our awareness of our breath. So, maybe right now we can focus for a second on our breath and return to it. But essentially, the point of shamatha practice is to more and more and more lengthen the amount of time we can focus on our breath. Sorry, let me just clarify. So I'm so sorry for any confusion. Dr. Alan Wallace is not coming. I really wish he was coming. That would be really, really incredible. No, so he is not going to be here in person. We are just using his guidance for the session. So I apologize for any confusion in that sense. It's just based on his guidance, and we'll be doing a guided meditation by Alan Wallace later in the session. So that should give a sort of general sense of shamatha practice, of what it means, the benefits of it. So now I just want to describe the three kinds of shamatha practice that Alan Wallace describes, and that is known in Buddhism as the one that we just did, which is mindfulness of the breath. That's one form of shamatha practice. The second one is what is called settling the mind in our natural state. And what that means is, and another way of phrasing it is taking the mind as the bath. And so what that means is we are essentially, instead of focusing on our breath, we are taking the mind as our object of meditation. So we are resting in the space of the mind. And I love 2 days ago we had Geshe Dorje Damdola come and teach a session here. And whenever he talks about the mind, he points here, which I found really powerful, because we think the mind is here, but really, where is the mind? We don't know. The mind is also our emotions that happen. The mind is a physical pain that we feel. And in my knee, if I hit my knee, the pain I'm feeling is coming from my mind. So that's also from my mind. It's not coming from my knee. So I love that instead of pointing here, he pointed here to the mind. And so essentially, the second form of shamatha practice is taking the mind as your object of meditation and just watching what arises in the mind. You're just watching the space of your mind, of whatever is coming up. The third form, which is a little bit difficult, and they say you should do this. So there are two different ways. One, you can pick any of these three methods right from the start of your practice and just keep using this method. A second option is, which is what Alan Wallace describes. He says the first 5 stages of cultivating shamatha practice can be the first form that I mentioned, focusing on your breath, mindfulness of the breath. The second three stages can be about can be using the method of settling the mind in your natural state, and the final stage can be this third method, which is called awareness of awareness. And what that means is basically, so the first, you're taking the breath as your object, the second, you're taking the mind as your object, the third, you're taking awareness, your own awareness as your object, which is a little bit more complicated to explain, and probably Kabirji, when he comes, he can explain it a lot better. So we won't go into that because today we're just focusing on the first one, which is just mindfulness of your breath. Let's see. Okay, so let's do a quick, we're going to do a quick practice. But this is actually a stage even before any of these three stages, which is how Alan Wallace opens his book. He says, before anything, we have to learn to relax. If we can't relax, our minds are going to be tense, our minds are going to start moving faster, and we are going to have a hard time trying to control it. So the first stage before any meditation is just to relax. And this is a meditation that my teacher, a student of Alan Wallace, taught, which can be used at any point, at any time, if you're in the office, if you're walking, or if you're on the metro and you're stressed. It's called a drop meditation. And it's just to relax and to bring yourself here to the moment so that you can begin your shamatha practice. So just close your eyes and be in any comfortable posture with a straight back. Now we're going to do something really, really simple. We're going to raise our arms in front of us, very lightly, very loosely, up, and as we breathe out, just drop them on your lap. And just rest there. As you rest here, just become aware of the feelings in your body and your mind. Don't try to focus on your breath. Don't try to stop thinking. Just do nothing. Let yourself just rest in the present moment. And if you need, you can do another drop. You can raise your arms again and just let go. Whenever you feel ready, you can gently open your eyes again. So this meditation is something you can use at any point, at any time, but especially I wanted to do it today because before we start our shamatha practice, because it's really important to just feel, just experience what relaxation feels like. Even in our day, sometimes there's a day, an entire day can go by without us relaxing even once. But we don't realize it because that's just how we are all the time. We're always a little bit tense. So this is a way to just for one moment to just relax. And yes, and I wanted to do that so that we can see what relaxation looks like, so that when we are in meditation, we can return to this relaxation. If we feel ourselves in meditation getting a little bit tensed up or a little bit frustrated with ourselves, or emotions coming up that we don't like, or physical discomfort and we're feeling fidgety and we want to get up, we can just remember, oh my God, I'm not relaxed right now, and just remember to relax, because now we've experienced what relaxation looks like, so we can always return back to that. So I just want to quickly see if there are any questions on shamatha practice, on what it means, because very soon, in a few minutes, we'll do a practice, a guided meditation by Alan Wallace of shamatha, mindfulness of the breath. So if there are any questions before then, I can quickly take. And if not, I also want to ask, who here is a first time meditator or beginner who's not really meditated much? Okay. So I was thinking of going over the 7-pointed posture of meditation, basically how to sit in meditation. Do people want to go over that? Do people already have their postures sort of figured out, their comfortable postures? Let me know. Please message in the chat also, yes, no. Do you want to go over the 7-pointed posture? Or do you want to go straight and do the meditation? Yeah. People on Zoom also? Any feedback? I know some of you, of course, have joined Kabirji's sessions a lot, so of course he goes over it a lot. But it's always beneficial to go over it quickly, so I will quickly go over it. Oh, sorry, I'm still sharing the shamatha painting. So there are 7 key points in our body where we want to just make sure, just be aware of in our meditation, that they are in a posture that is conducive to our meditation practice. So of course, I mean, we could be sitting anywhere and we can just do a drop meditation, like in our office chairs, or we can just, remember our breath. But if we actually have the opportunity to sit and meditate, there are positions of our body that are more conducive to settling our mind, to focusing our mind. If we're sort of slumped like this, it's a little harder to focus. You may have noticed, even if you're working on a project, if you're sort of slumped, it's a little bit harder. And if you straighten up, you can focus a little bit more. So let me move this over here so that you can also see. So the first point of, let's see, so the first of the 7 points is our legs. So there are different positions we can take. If you're not comfortable on a cushion, first of all, it is absolutely perfectly okay to be sitting in a chair, and keep your feet planted on the floor. It's a way to stay grounded in our meditation, and we just want to sit up straight and keep our feet on the ground. We can also be laying down, but make sure you are on a flat surface and you don't have any, yes, you can be laying down and you don't have any, sorry, just checking the Zoom chat. You don't have any elevation, any odd elevation. If you're on the ground, we want to keep our legs in some kind of cross-legged position because this is what helps our energy flow. So it can either be, of course, there's the full lotus posture if you are comfortable, keeping a cushion under, just sitting on the edge of a cushion, not necessarily sitting on the cushion, but right at the edge. Because if we're sitting directly on the cushion, we can lose sensation in our legs during the session. So if you're sitting right on the edge of the cushion, it is helpful to avoid um, losing sensation in your legs. So you could either be in full lotus position, which you all know, or if that's not comfortable, which it's not comfortable for me either. I normally do half lotus position, which is keeping one leg under and one leg on top like this. Or if neither of those are comfortable, you can just be cross-legged. And another thing that helps, if even cross-legged is a little bit difficult, you can try putting a couple more cushions under you, and that will help. So the second point is our back. We want to keep our back very straight, and the way you can visualize it to feel if it's right is as if there were a string coming out of your head and going all the way down your spine, and somebody were pulling you up like this. How would your back straighten up if you were being pulled up by the top of your head? Your spine is totally stacked up one on top of another. This is to help the energy in our body flow all through our body because it all flows from the center portion of our body. It helps us also cultivate our concentration if our energy is flowing as opposed to being stuck up in our head or down below. The third point is our arms. And so our arms are going to be resting in our laps, whether you're in a chair or on the floor. We want to rest in our laps. You can have it rested palms facing open on your knees if that's more comfortable. Um, or in your laps, it can be in the mudra like this, with your right hand over your left hand and your two thumbs touching. Um, and you can have it resting right there and with your elbows a little bit out, not slumped in, because then our back also slumps a little bit out to help keep your body straight. Your mouth is the fourth one, which is closed, but very lightly. And you don't want your jaws clenching against each other because that also creates tension. You want your mouth open, your jaws open, but your lips closed. So you can feel what that feels like. And of course, these are things that are not necessary. They are just things that, of course, long, long time through many, many centuries. These are the practices that meditators have developed and have seen are beneficial to our practice. But of course, at the end of the day, we just want to be comfortable. So that is the mouth. The fourth point. The fifth point is our tongue. So they say that if you keep your tongue on the slightly touching the roof of your mouth and touching right behind your front teeth, your front top teeth, and touching the roof. This helps to prevent saliva from forming in our mouths when we are meditating. So it prevents us having, when saliva forms in our mouths when we are meditating, then we have to swallow. And when we're in a deeper state of concentration, that can cause a little bit of distraction. So this is the fifth point. The sixth point is our heads. We want it tilted a little bit downwards so that our gaze is just on the floor in front of us, maybe a meter, a couple meters in front of us. We don't want our heads too far down because then we'll start slumping and feeling sleepy. And we don't want it straight up because then that will incite agitation in our minds and excitement. And the seventh point is our gaze. So if you are just starting to meditate, you may feel more comfortable with your eyes closed. You may have been meditating for a long time and only feel comfortable with your eyes closed. But what many meditators suggest and what many geshes suggest is to keep your eyes slightly cracked open. Not open so you are visually looking at anything, just cracked open enough, very gently, very lightly. And you'll get used to this if you practice it a few times in your meditation, so that a little bit of light is coming in. What this does is it helps us stay alert in our meditation. And we also do it because we don't live our lives with our eyes closed. We live our lives with our eyes open. And so if we have our eyes slightly cracked open in our meditation, it can help us to create a bridge between our meditative state and our waking state, our daily lives, and not have it as a separate world where our eyes are closed. And you may find if you are sleepy, keeping your eyes a little bit cracked open will help you stay awake and alert. So that's the posture of meditation. And now that we are in our posture, I'm going to begin the practice of mindfulness of breath led by Alan Wallace. Be at ease. Be still. Be vigilant. These three qualities of the body are to be maintained throughout all meditation sessions. Once you have settled your body with these three qualities, take 3 slow, gentle, deep breaths, breathing in and out through the nostrils. Let your awareness penetrate your entire body as you do so, noting any sensations that arise in relation to the respiration. Luxuriate in these breaths as if you were receiving a gentle massage from within. Now settle your respiration in its natural flow. Continue breathing through your nostrils, noting the sensations of the respiration wherever they arise within your body. Observe the entire course of each in and each out breath, noting whether it is long or short, deep or shallow, slow or fast, without imposing any rhythm on your breathing. Attend closely to the respiration, observing it, but without influencing it in any way. Let it be your natural breath. Don't even prefer one kind of breath over another as you observe it. And don't assume that rhythmic breathing is necessarily better than irregular breathing. Let the body breathe as if you were fast asleep. The only difference is now you are mindfully vigilant. You can watch the breath either coming in and out of your nostrils or in your abdomen as your belly moves in and out as you breathe. Whatever feels more comfortable. Thoughts are bound to arise involuntarily, and your attention may also be pulled away by noises and other stimuli from your environment. When you note that you have become distracted, instead of tightening up and forcing your attention back to the breath, simply let go of these thoughts and distractions. If you notice your mind has wandered, you can especially use your out breath. Relax your body, release extraneous thoughts, and joyfully let your attention settle back into the body. When you see that your mind has wandered, don't get upset. Just be happy that you've noticed the distraction and gently return to your breath. If you're having a lot of trouble staying with your breath, you can even try counting your breaths. In, out, and that's one. In, out, and that's two. Still letting your breath just flow naturally. Again and again, counteract the agitation and the turbulence of the mind by relaxing more deeply. Not by contracting your body and mind, with each exhalation, release involuntary thoughts as if they were dry leaves blown away by a soft breeze. Breathe so effortlessly that you feel as if your body were being breathed by your environment. Relax deeply through the entire course of your exhalations and continue to relax as the next breath flows in effortlessly as the tide. Whenever you feel ready, you can ride that same tide back into awareness of your surroundings, the sounds, the temperature. Try to ride that wave of relaxation back into the space around you as you bring your mind back to the room you're in. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes again. See if you can continue riding that wave of relaxation, if you can bring it back with you, even as you open your eyes. So I want to just read a couple more excerpts from this book about mindfulness of the breath, about its benefits, and where it comes from. So this form of shamatha practice, I had mentioned 3. The other 2 that I mentioned, actually, using the mind and using awareness as your objects, are actually not directly from the Buddha's teachings. Those are part of the Dzogchen tradition. But this mindfulness of the breath is from the Buddha's teachings, and this is an excerpt from one of his discourses on this topic. He says, breathing in long, one knows, I breathe in long. Breathing out long, one knows, I breathe out long. Breathing in short, one knows, I breathe in short. Breathing out short, one knows, I breathe out short. One trains thus, I shall breathe in, experiencing the whole body. I shall breathe out, experiencing the whole body. I shall breathe in, soothing the domain of the body. I shall breathe out, soothing the composite of the body. And a Buddhist master, Asanga, from the 5th century, he also says, if involuntary thoughts particularly dominate your behavior, then focus the mind in mindfulness of the exhalation and inhalation of the breath. And so, and then a final line from Alan Wallace, since nearly everyone living in the modern world is coping with an overload of thinking, remembering, planning, this may be just what the doctor ordered, a general prescription for soothing and healing our overworked bodies and minds. So, I will share. So this is the book I'm pulling from, The Attention Revolution, a very, very, very powerful book full of resources of different meditations and methods for meditating. Another book I want to mention, also not by Alan Wallace, it's taken from teachings by Dodrum. I have to remember the name because I'm very bad with names. It's called Stilling the Mind, the book, and it is by Dodrum Lingpa. It is pulling from teachings. It is compiled by Alan Wallace, though, and it's called Stilling the Mind, also about meditation and the different forms of shamatha practice. And so, I just want to close by saying that shamatha practice can be a great way to, even if, of course, we may not be, we would have to be in very, very deep retreat probably to even get close to the 9th stage, even to get to maybe the 3rd stage of shamatha practice. We would have to be in a long retreat. But even just to start our days maybe with 5 minutes of this practice, single-pointed awareness, calm abiding, shamatha. Just focus, whatever you choose your practice to be, focusing on the breath in the nostril or the abdomen, even laying down in your bed before you get up, or once you get out of bed, the first thing you can do is sit on your meditation cushion before you start your day. And it can really, if you do like 5 minutes every day, it can really, really make a difference in the way that, and how your mind focuses, and the clarity of your mind, the focus, the attention. It can be very powerful. And of course, if you can do 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it will have even more of an impact. It's a very, very powerful practice. It's also said and suggested to even any meditation practice, even if you're doing a meditation on compassion, for example. And you'll notice most
many teachers start with a mindfulness of the breath for a few minutes before they go into the rest of the meditation, whether it's compassion or loving kindness. You'll notice that usually teachers start with shamatha, which they don't call it shamatha, but you'll notice that they start with a couple minutes of just settling the mind in its natural state by focusing on the breath. And so that is how they cultivate that mind of stability before diving into the practice. So yeah, it's very powerful, and I hope everybody maybe could gain something from this. The question: it would be interesting to know what the Buddha meant by these few sentences. Is there a text which explains that? Thanks a lot. So I'm not sure which. So it's from one of his very, very first discourses when he after he attained parinirvana. And I'm not sure where, but I will find it and look and send it in the WhatsApp group if I can find more information about that. But essentially, what he's referring to, and let me just go back to it. So, so let me just read what Alan Wallace says after that. He says, as I noted above, in this practice, you don't try to regulate the breath in any way. You simply note the duration of each in and out breath. In most Theravada commentaries on this discourse, which is the Buddha's excerpt, the phrase experiencing the whole body is interpreted as referring to the whole body of the breath, that is, the full course of each inhalation and exhalation. Certainly, this is the goal of this practice, but there is also value in observing the sensations of the breath throughout the whole body as well. This is a field approach to training the attention. So I hope that helps a little bit, give a little bit more of context to that. Yeah, any other questions? I can't.
Somebody called
Dodrum Lingpa, so there's another book I mentioned called Stilling the Mind, which I can put in the chat also. And I can send both these titles on our group. If anybody wants to borrow this book, who is here also, and we have Stilling the Mind also in our library, please feel free to borrow it. But yeah, that is another book by Geshe, who trained a lot in shamatha practice and went very deep into it. And so Alan Wallace compiled a book of his various teachings, and it's called Stilling the Mind. Yeah. Any other thoughts, questions? So we'll just, since we're a little over, we'll just close with a quick dedication. Thank you all for joining today. And we want to just take a moment to appreciate that we took this time out of our days to either come to the center or to join on Zoom. It can be very, very difficult when it's approaching 6:30 and we think, oh, 1 hour, how can I spare an hour of my day today? But you did do that, and I think that we should just allow ourselves to appreciate that we did that, as an encouragement to continue taking out 5, 10, 1 minute a day just to relax, do a drop meditation, practice shamatha if we can. And so whatever merit we have cultivated here today through this practice, through these teachings by Alan Wallace and others, through this discussion, we want to dedicate it to the full awakening of all beings, of every sentient being. Not just our own awakening, but that of everyone in our immediate circles, everyone we touch in our day-to-day lives, and strangers beyond that, everybody in the planet, animals, plants. Also take a moment just to remember all the suffering that still is going on in the world, not just Ukraine, but many genocides in South America, a lot of tension in Palestine and Gaza, in South America, in Mexico, in Tibet. We want to dedicate whatever positive energy, positive merit we have cultivated here today. We want to dedicate it to their liberation just from their immediate suffering as well as their ultimate enlightenment. May we all be free of attachment, aversion, and dwell in equanimity. And may we continue on this path towards full awakening. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
You forgot Ukraine.
Sorry?
You forgot Ukraine.
I mentioned Ukraine also. I mentioned Ukraine, but also the many other genocides and struggles going on in the world that are just ongoing all the time. That we often forget about because it goes on and on for years and years, and then we forget that people are still dying and suffering all around. Because the news, the media just zooms in on one thing and blows it up, which of course it's all tragedy is just tragedy. It is all tragedy. You can't compare. But yeah, it's also important to always remember what's going on in the news immediately and also what's going on in the background all the time. My personal thoughts. Yeah, thank you for joining. I'll stop the recording now.